Hey, this is Dale. I'm here to help you kind of understand what it takes to fill out this application in order for you to increase the likelihood of getting accepted. So right on my screen here, you will see here, this is from the link of the application. This is the Manchester Small Business Resilient Grant Program. This is for any company or businesses that have less than 2 million in gross annual receipt. And the business also has no more than 15 full-time employees. So this is for really small businesses. And I want to just walk through some of the requirements so you feel comfortable enough in filling this out. And if you have any question, we also have additional support to help you go through this. So when you click on the link, it will open, and this is what you see on top of the page. And you start scrolling down. It's going to ask you for the date of the application. So this is the date of today. You enter the date, whatever day that it is, you just click on it. And then the amount that you're requesting. So you have anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000. So you click there and you decide how much you want to apply for. And then right here, you want to put the name of your business, right? So if it's an LLC, you got to make sure that your business is registered within the state of New Hampshire and you have a physical office in Manchester. So that's some of the earlier criteria that you have to meet. And then when you get to the second part here, it asks for organizational structure of the business. So is this a sole proprietor? Is this a corporation, or is this a limited liability LLC? And if it's a sole proprietor, you might not have a register as an LLC. You might be using your social security number. So, if it's a LLC, you might have a business ID number that's given to you through the state of New Hampshire. And if it's a corporate, same thing. And then when you scroll down, this is very important. So you put the address of where your business is registered. So if it's registered where you currently live, that's the address you put. If it's registered in a separate building where you operate out of, that's where you will put it as well. And then the next part is who is the primary owner of the business? So if you're the primary owner, that means you own more than 50% of the business. There's no other partners. You put your name there and last name. Area code, phone number, cell phone number, email address, and then on the next side here, date of your business was established. When was your business established and when was it recorded? And then down here, you provide your business federal ID. So this ID number is what you will, when you fill out your tax returns, there's usually a number there. Or if you have a W-9 form, usually people have that number there as well. So make sure you have your business federal ID, or some people might not have a business federal ID. They just use their social security number. Please put your social security number there. If you have additional question regarding that, please contact us, deo@deomorrow.com. And then the next section is please provide a brief description of your business and the product or services that you offer. So this is where you will write about your business. If it's an electrician company, if it's a plumbing company, if it's a drywall company, if it's a bodega, if it's a store, whatever it is, you write the little description here. And then here is number of employees. How many employees do you have currently that are full-time? So you put the number there. And then the next section is detailed answer. This is really important. So you got to be able to provide detailed answer to these questions. Have you applied for Paycheck Protection? The Paycheck Protection Program, some people refer it as the PPP, and that was through the federal government, through the bank that you went through to apply for it. So if you did, you get to put it here. How much did you receive? If you applied for the Small Business Administration Economic Injury Disaster Loan, so that's the SBA loan, you put the amount that you received. If you received the emergency loan grant or related COVID-19 pandemic being offered by the federal government, if you receive any support from the state, if it was the Main Street grant or the self-employed grant, any of that, you want to list all that you've received for COVID relief money. It's very important to do so. And then the next section is, please describe how this grant will be used to help your small business continue to operate. So this meaning from the time of March 13, 2020 until now, so right now it's October, what have you lost? And what are you going to use the money that you're asking for in order to help your business? So you want to really be able to articulate that. So you write it here, example, if you were a restaurant that had to shut down and close between March until May, when some of the restaurants started opening, you can make sure you write it there. if your business was still open, but you lost a lot of your clients and a lot of your services because nobody was utilizing it, please articulate it here, because that's very important. This will increase your likelihood of getting accepted for this based on the case that you make. And then on the next section, you will need to provide the business owner employee income self-certification form. So if you have on the bottom here, we see, due to a negative impact of COVID-19 on the business, receipt of this fund will help support the continued operation of my business, which will allow me to retain. So if you're trying to keep your employees, or you don't want to lose an employee or any of that, if that's where the money is going, please highlight how many employees are going to benefit from it. And then here is, if you have receipt of this fund, will allow you to create new jobs. And please list the number here. So how many new jobs will this help create? And then on the next section here, this is where it might get a little bit tricky. So because this is a HUD required grant, the money is coming from the housing authority. So there's certain requirements in order to qualify for this. There's 3 different categories. So the first category is if you are a business employee, employs at least one employee with an annual income that is equal or less than $47,000 a year. So that means if you are a business and you have at least one employee that's making less than $48,000 a year, you check. That's where you check. So if this is also referring to you, right? So if you are a small business owner and you're applying for this, that's where you would check. The second one is if your business employs an employee who is a head of a household with an annual income equal or less to the limit to the table listed on the HUD income self-certification. So the HUD income certification, in order to figure out what that is, you click here on this link. And if you look at it, it opens up all the information regarding the HUD certification is right here. So number of people in the household. So you see here, they have one person, it says 0 to 17. Then they have 17,000 to 29. So this is just the qualification that shows what are the perimeter that HUD is looking at. So if you have 2 people, the range is between 20 to 35,000. 80% is 38 to 61,000. And if you have 3 people, they're looking at an annual income of 23 to 38. So and you can see the average, the overall average here in the bottom, which is really, if you're one person, you're making under 48,000. If you have two people within your household, it's 54,000. 3 people is 61. 4 people is 68. 5 people is 73. So those are what that section is referring to. So make sure you click on that blue link to see what is your range. And that's what will allow you to qualify if you're going to be able to receive this grant or not. So on the next section here, step 2 is you decide which one pertains to you. So if one pertains to you, you go with that one. If you're self-employed and you fall under the category that I just showed, you're good to go. If 2 is if your business employ an employee who is a head of a household with an annual income. So you use that sheet that I showed earlier in order to determine that. And then the third one is I am the owner of a HUD defined micro enterprise business. So this is if you're self-employed or depending on your household income, less or equal to a limit listed to a HUD self-certification form. Then you can click on that one and go into the self-employed certification form again to check where that falls under. So I know that there's a lot of options there. If you are a business owner and you have at least one employee that's making less than $48,000 a year, you would click here. That would be where you would go. If you are a business employee and you have an employee who is a head of a household with an annual income equal to less limited to the table, then you would click on that one. Or if you are self-employed and you're reporting out on how much money you've made, you'll use the same dashboard that I showed earlier. And then after that, we have some additional information that you need to provide. So here is demographic information. You click there depending on what demographic that's listed that pertains to you. And then on the second one is job performance measurement. Complete if you choose option one. Employee has access to employer-sponsored healthcare benefits. Employee was furloughed or unemployed prior to taking this job. If you feel comfortable in filling out, you decide which one pertains to you as a business owner. And then the job category is to show what type of business you run. So if it's, if it's an official or manager, you click on that. Professional, technical, sales, office or clerical, craft work, whatever that pertains to the business that you run, you click on that. And then here are some of the additional information that you saw on top in order to determine your qualification and what you need to include. So part of this application, that's all it takes to apply, to fill out all the information. But on the bottom here, they're asking for you to provide some information to prove that you own a business, and then to also prove that you have, your business have received a loss, or you also, either you personally as a sole proprietor, self-employed, that you make a certain, you're under a certain income bracket in order to be able to qualify for this. So this is the documentation section that you would need to upload. So you have to upload your current IRS W-9 form for your business. So this document is needed to process your grant payment. So this is just a W-9 form. Let me show you real quick what a W-9 form looks like. So the section where it's asking for a W-9 form, this is what a W-9 form looks like. If you own your own business, most of the time, if you're going to make an invoice to somebody, in order for them to pay you, they're going to need to see a W-9. So you would need to fill out this W-9, and either you put your social security number here or your employee identification number, and then you sign it and it's dated. Sometimes most people have a W-9 for that year, calendar year, and then they use it for most of their stuff. This is what you would need to include in your application in order for you, if you got accepted, for the city to cut you a check. So that's what they mean by a W-9 form. And then the next one is you need to have documentation that shows gross annual receipt of 2 million or less, loss of revenue of 50 or more due to impact of COVID-19 pandemic. So this is if you have a Schedule C, the 1099 documentation when you do your tax paper that shows how much you made in 2019 and how much you made in 2020 when you did your taxes, those two documentation will be sufficient enough in order to show where you've made a loss. You've had a loss between 2020 and 2019 based on COVID. Or if you have an Excel sheet that shows what your expenses were during that certain time frame in 2019, and then what your expenses were during 2020, during that time frame, please include those documentation as well. So that's proof to show that you've had a loss this year within your business. So it's really important to be able to show that. You can either show it through your tax paper, your 1099 papers, or you can show it through an Excel sheet that you have that shows what you've gained and what you've lost between the 2 different years. You also need documentation supporting how this grant fund will be used. So a little bit of a description, you write even like a half a page just stating that I'm planning to use this money for this. I lost this amount of money. If I get this money, I'm going to use the money for this. So please include that as well. And then the last one is documentation fulfilling HUD income requirements. So this is if you have an employee that you can show makes less than $48,000 a year, you can just have a pay stub that shows that employee makes that certain amount of money. Or if you are fulfilling a HUD required through option 2 that we talked about earlier, you need to be able to show income self-certification form. So you're just showing your tax papers, your W-9, your W-2 papers, that you file your taxes with, that shows overall how much money you made last year or this year. That would be sufficient enough to show how much you make on a yearly basis. And then you click here and you would be able to upload all the file that's asked. And then you fill out the rest of whatever that's left, making sure you got everything. You're accepting the terms of this application, and then you sign it, and then you submit. And once you submit, if there's any question that comes up, the CD will reach out to you to make sure that if there's any additional information that's needed, they'll be able to provide additional information. So this is the application, and please reach out to Deo at deomuano.com if you have any questions regarding this application. If you need help filling out this application, please reach out. We'll provide the support that you need to fill this out properly. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys. And hopefully you feel that this grant is helpful for you to apply for so you can support your business during this hard time that we're going through during COVID. Thank you, guys.